Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers and our review of the Allbirds Tree Flyer. So before we get into the review, a little bit of context about Allbirds. Now Allbirds' aim is to make running shoes and performance running shoes that have a very low carbon footprint and that use more sustainable materials so that we end up with running shoes that do less damage to the planet than our existing petroleum-based running shoes, the ones that we all know and love right now. Now with past shoes like the Allbirds Tree Dasher, they haven't quite nailed the performance bit. They've got a shoe that has a lower carbon footprint with more sustainable materials. But when it comes to the actual running, they're not quite up there with shoes that are using the more traditional petroleum-based materials. Now in the latest Tree Flyer, Allbirds says that he's made big steps and progress with that. This is their first shoe that they are targeting at kind of performance running. And that means this shoe, they think, will run as well as many other traditional running shoes. Now Allbirds says that it has a cushioned runner that can handle everyday miles and road races, and that's the crucial bit to keep in mind, with more bounce, more propulsion, and a 70% higher rebound rate from this midsole foam that will give you more energy with each step in the shoe. And all of that comes with its carbon footprint stamped on the back. You've got 9.92 kilograms of CO2 for each pair of shoes. So now before we get into the run test though, let's have a look at the design and details that Allbirds says makes this shoe a running shoe that's out there to contend with other daily trainers in the market. So on to those key details then. Well, the Allbirds Tree Flyer is going to cost you £150 in the UK, $160 in the US. It's available from the 17th of May. The shoe weighs 269 grams or 9.5 ounces. It's got an 8.5mm drop, and that's a stack height of 30.5mm in the heel and 22mm in the forefoot. It also has a carbon footprint of 9.92 kilograms of CO2 per pair. Now onto the shoe's design, and let's start with the midsole. Well, the midsole features a new foam from Allbirds called Swift Foam, and that's made from castor beans, a renewable kind of natural resource that Allbirds says has a 20% lower carbon footprint than petroleum-based alternatives. And Allbirds also says that that's 30% more responsive and 25% lighter than the sweet foam that you'll find in things like the Allbirds Dasher. Onto the uppers then, you've got eucalyptus-based tree fibre knit uppers that are very stretchy and very kind of material compared to some of the other kind of weaves and mesh uppers that we've got. They're quite sort of densely knitted as well. You've got a kind of fairly minimal kind of heel counter. There is some cushioning in there, but there's not a huge amount, even all the way down into the shoe. You've also got a booty type construction here, which kind of wraps the foot. Moving into the back then, you've got this really sturdy, exposed kind of external heel counter. That's actually made from waste from the midsole, so it's recycled to save kind of on materials there too. Flip them over and you've got a zonal traction pattern for grip and to add a bit of extra durability.
So on the fit, I went half a size down in the Allbirds just because in the past with their shoes I have found they've been a bit big, and I think that was the right thing to do. I've got the right amount of room in the toe box. Still say the fit is a bit kind of sloppy and baggy. I think around the midfoot and heel with this kind of sock upper that they use. At the end of the run today, I could see at the top of my foot was a bit irritated where kind of just a bit of lateral movement in the foot when running down hills or around corners, and it's just moving around a bit under that upper. So yeah, it's not the most secure hold around the midfoot or heel, but you know, it's not terrible. I would certainly suggest go half size down if you have a narrow foot like me, just because it is a bit too roomy and baggy in some spots.
The fit for me in the Allbirds Tree Flyer is true to size. I didn't have any issues with it. It felt quite comfortable. Felt like there was quite a bit of room. I would say that the upper, this sort of knitted fabric, it's very comfortable, but I think it does lose a little bit in the stability and support of when you're getting a lockdown fit. So I'd say it's true to size, but do expect it to be a little bit loose inside.
When it comes to fit, this was a really odd one. This is a UK 8.5, which is my normal size, but it was hugely too long. I mean, there was so much room in the toe box here that I think actually I would go half a size down in these for sure.
So this is the first time that I've tried one of the recent Allbirds shoes, and I didn't really know what to expect from it. I know what the guys have said previously about the shoes, but I think there's been quite a few updates to this shoe, especially around the midsole foam to add extra benefits when running. So I was expecting from the look of it and the feel of the foam for it to be a fairly cushioned ride. What I actually found was that it's very firm. It's a very firm shoe, and it feels quite like it's deadening the impact when you're hitting the ground. The cushioning that sits within it just doesn't seem to do anything when you're running in it. And I found I didn't really like that experience at all. I did a run in it a couple of days ago, and I did about 10k, and it just felt like I was putting in a lot of effort, and I wasn't really getting a lot out of it. I think that midsole foam is probably too firm for anything over maybe a 5k. The 10k I was running at, I just felt like I've been injured recently, so I'm never sure if it's my fitness or if it's the shoe. I sometimes second guess myself, but when I got up to that 10k, I realised that it really was the shoe just wasn't helping me run. It just wasn't giving me a fluid motion when running. It just didn't feel very cushioned. It didn't feel like it was supporting the movement of my running. So yeah, I just didn't think. I don't think that foam really is designed very well for longer distance running. I think as a general shoe, it might be okay. It's quite a nice, comfortable shoe. So if you were maybe training in the gym and you wanted to do treadmill miles, maybe a 2k or a 3k on it, I think it's fine for that. I don't think you'd have any issues with it at all. But when you get to that point where you start doing more endurance level running, if you're going over 5k, I think that's when it really starts to struggle a bit, because that foam just doesn't deliver like pretty much all shoes that I rate at the moment, and the foam that they have in them. So massive kudos to the brand for creating a shoe that is so focused on the environment, but I think it's still a way off being comparable with other shoes out there at the moment that are designed for a similar thing. So I think the main issue is that foam that sits within it. Other than that, I think as I said, it's comfortable. It's not a problem at all to wear. I do like this upper. I think it's completely fine. Although I would say that it does get a little bit rigid towards the midsection of the shoe. So that knitted fabric doesn't really relay quite nicely to the midsection. It's a little bit rigid and not as comfortable as the forefoot of the shoe.
So for my run test, I've done around 20 miles in this shoe. That is a mixture of paved roads, kind of pavements, and a bit of off-road, kind of on compacted river paths, which I normally run. I did a 7-mile stint that was kind of very low and slow, nice easy pace, so we're talking like 9 to 10 minute miles. I've done 2 sets of 3 miles, so 2 5Ks, some of which were a little bit faster, so I picked up the pace a little bit in this shoe. But yeah, overall, this shoe to me has been a bit of a surprise. The first 7-miler I did on very tired legs. I did it 2 days after I'd run a marathon, and when I first put these shoes on in the house, they felt kind of awkward. I was really fearful that they were going to have something that was a little bit as firm almost as the Dasher, which I can run in, but it is a firm shoe and I wouldn't like to go long in, particularly on tired legs. That day I was looking for something a little bit more protected. When you first put this on, you get that kind of sensation that these are going to run quite firm again, and that to me was a little bit of a worry, particularly when Allbirds are kind of pointing this out to be a more performance friendly shoe, a shoe that you might go and race in. Now, also, the other thing I noticed is basically this shoe is too long, it's too big. The fit for me, as I said earlier, wasn't right. I think I definitely have to half size down, so they felt a little bit like slipping on a pair of elongated kind of canoe. So it wasn't a natural sensation to begin with. That was a bit of a worry. When I got out 2 miles into that first run, these shoes were a little bit of a surprise to me. They are definitely Allbirds' softest and I think most comfortable run yet. Are they a performance shoe that I would go and race a marathon in? No. Are they a shoe that I would go and race 5k in? No. Are they a shoe that you can plod around at happy 10k as kind of a casual run for fitness? Yes. Would I go longer than 10k? I think actually possibly in these. I think you could go up on a longer, slower run. I don't think I'd go maybe not much beyond kind of 10 miles though. But compared to the Allbirds Dasher, I think there's a definite softness and an extra kind of protection in these shoes that you're going to get from those kind of Dashers that were firm. And it's starting to see Allbirds move closer to that kind of goal of creating a performance shoe from sustainable materials. It's not quite there yet. And I think, they come into a difficult market because in the context of kind of daily trainers and shoes that are out there with petroleum-based kind of materials, it's a difficult marketplace to enter. And they are not really still, for my money, quite competitive with plenty of other shoes out there. At £150 as well, the pricing's quite steep compared to what you're going to pay for something like a Puma Velocity Nitro 2, which is a great shoe we've all loved on this channel. When you think about what that gives you compared to what this one gives you, It is a little bit chalk and cheese. But I'm going to come down on the side of Allbirds here, because we're starting to get to a point where the materials that they're using are performing closer to some of those shoes. Now, I really like the uppers. I think they're nice and flexible. I found them very comfortable, nice and flex, nice and roomy, nice and breathable. I quite like the booty fit that you've got here. Sort of wraps the foot well. I got kind of pretty good lace lockdown. The heel collars are fairly sort of minimal, but there's just enough padding in the back here. Underfoot, these are still a very direct shoe. They're very kind of firm, but there's definitely more softness and more protection than you get from other Allbirds. And to me, there's more shoe to them. There's a bigger platform than something like you would have had from a Nike Free. But there's a sensation that is somewhat similar to that. It's sort of like a minimal feel to it. And I found it quite easy actually after those first 2 miles on tired legs to get into a nice kind of rolling motion with good kind of ground contact. I felt like they encouraged me, perhaps because there's less kind of sort of almost sloppy cushioning in these, encouraged me to get up onto my forefoot a bit and run with sort of higher cadence and pick my feet quicker, which is kind of how I like to run. And I think actually they have moved things on compared to some of the other shoes, and I think that's a good thing from Allbirds, particularly when you're kind of weighing up the fact that what they're trying to do is create a shoe that does less damage to the planet.
About to head off to do my first run in the new Allbirds Tree Flyer and do my kind of usual Monday run, that nice hour from working from easy to steady pace with a few strides afterwards. Start off nice and gentle, be running on feel the whole time, but generally I tend to work down to kind of around 3:30, 3:40 a k pace at the end. Be interesting to see if the Allbirds, really suit this kind of run as a solid, versatile daily trainer. Like in the past, I've kind of enjoyed some of their shoes as potential just kind of easy day shoes with a slightly firmer feel, but hopefully these will have a bit more kind of to them as an actual real performance trainer, whilst being obviously a little bit more environmentally friendly. So about 6.5 k and just over that, they were very clunky, bit firm. They have softened up a bit, even after just 6k, so hoping to see that maybe a bit more as the run goes on, because they're still fairly firm and there's not a lot going on here. They're quite an awkward shoe. They certainly not a shoe that disappears on the foot. They're very present. Anyway, they're ticking along fine enough at 4k at the moment, but we'll see how it goes when we step up to more steady paces. But so first run in the Allbirds all done. Ran kind of about 10 miles, almost spot on actually, about 15k in the hour, then a few strides, some jogging. It's not a great first impression, it's fair to say. Like in the past, I've viewed Allbirds as shoes that you give a bit of an easier ride. They're built just for easy, for casual runs. Something you can use that's a nice shoe to walk around in, and use for the odd kind of casual 5k, and while being a bit more eco-friendly. But this is pitched more as a performance shoe, and didn't deliver today on that kind of promise. We talk a lot about shoes that feel lighter on the foot than they really are, and then the miles tick by in them, they disappear on the foot and things like that. And these are the kind of the opposite of that. Like they feel heavier than they are. They're not that heavy, but they feel a bit heavier and clunkier. They're really present on the foot. I was aware of them the whole run. They've got quite an awkward kind of shape to them, and the run was fine, like in terms of hitting normal paces, but just wasn't very enjoyable. Like the ride is firm, but not like in a responsive way. I don't think they're going to protect the legs that well, like if you're using them for lots of long runs. So they still kind of fall into that bracket for me of kind of being a shoe that you can use for casual runs, but they're not something that would really fit as a daily trainer for someone who's, I think, going to be logging a lot of miles and wants a more environmentally friendly shoe. They still just don't really tick that box. They're a shoe you could reach for occasionally on easy runs maybe, but yeah, all in all, they weren't fantastic today. And I've been testing lots of shoes recently, in the kind of daily train, around the 100 pound mark, and they all deliver just a more enjoyable ride. And if you're going to switch to an environmentally friendly shoe, and you still want the performance, it's just not really quite there yet. Like you can use them, they're fine, like I say, for casual use, for the odd easy run, but if you want to move over to an environmentally friendly shoe, and you are going to suffer a bit on performance still, even with this new shoe.
So my verdict on the Allbirds Tree Flyer is this: if you're going to weigh up that kind of sustainability angle and you're looking for a shoe that is trying to move us on away from petroleum-based materials, is trying to do something to lower the carbon footprint of every pair of shoes we create, and you're willing to kind of forego a little bit of performance, and perhaps that you're running just kind of generally casually, maybe 3 times a week, and you only ever do sort of 3 to 6 miles, then I think this shoe is actually worth looking at. Yes, you're going to pay a premium for it, but that's partly because of the way the materials are made. They're not being produced quite en masse that you'll get from other shoes with kind of materials that are more kind of common and selling at higher volumes. Until we get to that point of high volumes, you're going to pay a premium. So, but they do a job. I think they do offer cushioning. They have taken things on a step compared to the Allbirds Dasher. And yeah, I think they're to be saluted for that. I think there's a lot to commend this shoe. Although if Allbirds market it as a performance shoe, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed. And you have to bear that in mind. You know, I wouldn't race in this. I don't think I'd run a marathon in it. I think it's just a good shoe to pick up when you're sort of looking down, you're thinking, actually, I'm going to go out and plod around for 3 or 4 miles today, and I want something comfortable that's also working for the planet to do it in. So again, I think a reasonable effort, not perfect, moving things on, a little bit overpriced perhaps. There are better shoes out there using petroleum-based materials, but if you care about the planet, worth a look.
So early impressions of the shoe are not great. Obviously, that first run didn't really wow me. You are still going to have to make a sacrifice, I think, in terms of performance. If you want to move to a more environmentally friendly shoe like this, it's not got the best ride. It feels heavy on the foot. It's a shoe I don't really want to pull on every day. And there are lots of fantastic daily trainers out there that that are a lot better, I think. So it's very much the choice of you want an environmentally friendly shoe, or do you want a shoe that's going to perform better in terms of daily training? Like this, all these kind of shoes that just come out recently, the Nike Pegasus 39, the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, Reebok Flutter Energy 4, Saucony Ride 15, all out there, all available, pretty good prices, all kind of better shoes for running. This will still work as a nice casual shoe that you can use for the odd run. That will still do that job fine. And if you're kind of a more casual runner, then it's certainly something to consider, I think, because of the eco credentials. But if you're looking for a performance daily trainer to pull on every day, knock out kind of 10, 15K, toss up a fair bit of mileage, it's still just not really doing as good a job as dedicated running shoes.
So my verdict on the Allbirds Tree Flyer is that it is a commendable shoe for what it's trying to do for the environment. But when you compare it with other shoes out there at the moment, it's just that foam's just not there for me. It can't compete with a lot of the more modern foams out there at the moment. It's just far too firm. I think it's a shoe that's fine for gym training. If you maybe do CrossFit and you want to do your mile-long runs within the workouts, it's probably fine for that. It reminds me of the Hoka Kwana, which is a shoe that is largely made for people who sort of do gym training, a bit of treadmill training, and then go out and maybe do a little bit of a run. But it's definitely not designed for endurance training or really focused running where you're doing a lot of miles. I think the shoe probably fits alongside that one. So if you're really keen on the environment, as you should be, and you want a shoe that fits that need, then this is a good option for that. But don't expect it to deliver the same sort of things that you will get from a lot of the other shoes out there at the moment, because really it's a alright gym shoe that can do a bit of running, but I definitely wouldn't run any distances in this. I wouldn't go over 5k in it, and I would not race in it or do any endurance training.
So there you have it. That's been our review of the Allbirds Tree Flyer, the new performance shoe from So there you have it. That's the outro. So there you have it. That's been our review of the Allbirds Tree Flyer. We hope you liked it. So there you have it. That's been our review of the Allbirds Tree Flyer. If you have any questions or comments, hit us up below. We'll endeavour to answer those. Hope you've enjoyed the review. Hope it's been useful. Don't forget you can have a look at our Allbirds Dasher review if you're interested in other sustainable shoes. We've also tested the Veja shoes, and we've done some looks at that Allbirds Adidas crossover shoe, which is a very, very minimal sustainable material shoe. Again, interesting, but not quite there. But have a look at that review on the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all the other reviews and stuff that we've got coming your way. Loads of them coming, so you'll get notified when those hit if you ring the bell as well. Thank you for watching, and yeah, we hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers.